Well, what a week for Apple, right? I mean, it's stock on fire. Billionaire investors like Carl Icahn, George Soros just adding the fuel. And Hollywood now adding a film, a biopic, as they're calling it, because Jobs, the movie, is out. And Ashton Kutcher is the iconic founder, Steve Jobs himself. And guess who plays the other Apple CEO who succeeded and, you could say, preceded Steve? Matthew Modine, who makes a very snappy and dapper John Sculley. Joins me now. Good to have you with us, John. I mean, I have not seen the film yet, so I just go based on some of the clips I see where you look like a visionary brought in from Pepsi to sort of spruce up the marketing and help the company get on its feet, and then as a Machiavellian guy out to destroy its founder. Which one are you?
Well, I think the latter was proven not to be true. The movie actually shows that I never did fire Steve Jobs. It was the board who got together to fire Steve Jobs. But I think the movie itself is kind of interesting. I went to see it last night, Neil, and Ashton Kutcher did a really convincing job of capturing Steve's mannerisms. He looks like a young Steve Jobs. But I think even his admirable performance wasn't enough to save a movie that's kind of loose on the facts and portrays Steve as this angry, driven man. And that's not how I remember Steve. Steve was someone who was passionate. He would giggle. He was warm. Yes, he had tempers and tantrums and things, but this movie really didn't tell the story I remember, particularly around Steve Wozniak. Woz was portrayed in the movie as kind of this jocular guy who did whatever Steve wanted and was more or less a technician with a soldering iron. Steve Wozniak is one of the genius engineers in Silicon Valley, but that's kind of absurd.
Yeah, he helped get the company up, with Steve. But by the way, Wozniak, no fan of the movie. I think he said outright that he thought it was horrible. Before he died, had you guys reconciled? How would you describe it?
Well, I think you have to understand, why did two guys who were almost inseparable for 3 years, suddenly have this celebrated blow-up? And it goes back to the mission that we had been given by the board. We were meant to be partners. My job was to keep the cash flowing from the Apple II because the Apple III had failed, Lisa had failed, and Mac was, not expected to be profitable for quite some years. So at one point when the Mac just wasn't doing nearly as well as Steve had hoped in 1985. He wanted to cut the price, move the advertising away from the Apple II. And I said, Steve, that's nuts. That's our only cash flow. And that was the issue that really brought it to the head with Steve and me and with the board.